Hey everyone, welcome to my first product review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Everlasting Wet Palette, the Painter Set Edition by Redgrass Games. If you look in the channel info below, you'll be able to get their website address and all of the information for how to get your hands on this product. So, full disclosure, I was sent this by these guys. It's not long came out in the UK. As far as I'm aware, the USA got their hands on it first. However, they have two different sizes of wet palette that you can get. This is the smallest of the two. The other one is aimed at professional painters and is roughly about double the size of this one. So this one is 50 by 20 centimeters, which is 5.9 inches by 7.9. And it is a new take on the wet palette. So this is the basic packaging that you get. There's absolutely nothing special about this whatsoever. Nice sturdy box, so you're guaranteed it's not going to be damaged. So let's take a little look inside the box and see what you get. I'll just put that aside. Okay, so as you can see, everything is completely wrapped and contained. So we'll just pull this open. You need to excuse all the noise, the mic is very sensitive. Okay, so straight off you have got this little paint tray that you can use and attach onto the side with magnets. Yep, you can attach that to either side of the wet palette. Personally, I will probably just use this for some washes and not much else. Obviously I'm going to be keeping the majority of the paint in the palette. You have this stretchy band which goes round the centre of the palette just to keep it nice and tight together. They also give you a pack of 50 of the hydration paper sheets, which we'll open and have a look at in a minute. It's a decent amount. Other companies that I've bought wet palettes from, you do not get 50, you only get about 10. We then have two of the naturally mold resistant neutral grey hydration foam sheets. So these are obviously cut to the perfect size for this palette. So that's the handy thing about these. You do not have to mess around with scissors and parchment paper and all of that kind of stuff. You can see with the condensation there's obviously some moisture in there for them for travelling. So we'll open those up too. Another 50 of the hydration paper sheets, so that's 100 in total. And then we get to the upside down wet palette itself. So the smaller one is done in an orange top and a grey bottom, and the larger one aimed at studios and pro painters is done in a blue on the top and a grey on the bottom. Now we don't have magnets on this side, however we do have them on this side for this nifty little palette to attach onto. We also have them on this side and this side, so 3 out of 4 you can't really complain at. The overall quality, the lid's obviously plastic, the base is plastic as well, however it is very, very sturdy at first glance. Let's see how easy it is to open up. Okay, so obviously they've designed it so that you use the grey one on the bottom as your main palette, so you've got a kind of texture to the bottom that will obviously be to stop some slipping and help dispersion of water. You've got the lid that you can see has this seal around to help make it airtight, and then in addition with the band, absolutely nothing's going to come out of there whatsoever. We have two of the hydration sheets, so I'm going to quickly open these. Just grab a tool to open them. Hopefully these reviews will get a bit more professional as we go on. So there's the first one. And we've also got the second one as well. Do I really need to open that? So the way I thought I would do this tutorial is that I wouldn't look at anything apart from the back of the box before setting up, just to see how completely easy it is straight from the box. They do have setup guides and some info on their website, again, which I'll link in the channel info below. Just standard stuff for some wet palettes. So yeah, you can definitely feel when you open it there is some moisture in there. Not exactly sure what the purpose of that will be, apart from to keep it pliable. So if we set this aside, it really is as simple as placing this into the center. So the difference straight away between this and my homemade wet palette, which is actually a Ferrero Rocher box, is that they have they've left some space around the edges for the foam and everything else. That's something I don't do with my own ones. I'm wondering if there is an actual proper reason for that, or whether it's just more convenient. We will go on and pull out one of these parchment sheets. So again, it's completely different to the parchment I normally use. It seems thicker, more dense, an issue that I was having with the homemade ones, which I resorted to after not being able to find one by a brand company that I liked, is that if you're like me and you water down quite a lot, wet palettes can be an issue, but especially homemade ones, when you're using bog standard parchment paper for baking, you will find that your parchment paper will break apart. So, as you can see, the stereotypical thing's happening because there's a tiny bit of moisture in that foam. As soon as we lay this down on here, it's curling up, regardless of which way you put it. So pretty much it is as simple as putting it together, pouring some water down, which I really should have gotten before starting this video, and stupidly I didn't. Oh no, I did. Okay, so we have our trusty bottle of water. Okay, so yeah, we have this sheet, which is a decent thickness. It's mold resistant, which will be quite nice. They'll be washable, just in case you do happen to get paint on them. So we're just going to scoosh some water on here, see how much water this actually takes. I'm used to quite a lot going into mine. Same thing with all wet palettes. The first time you use them, they do tend to take more water. That's probably part of the reason why they've got some moisture in there already. It's just to help you wet it for the first time. So this is going to take a lot of water the first time round. I need to let it soak for a minute, and then we'll need to pour the excess out. There was advice elsewhere from other people that have set these up that this grey colour here is exactly what you're looking for. And when they're new, and only when they're new, it does take a little while for the water to soak in. So that is to be expected if you do pick one of these up, so I wouldn't worry if it's doing that to you too. You can see it's practically soaked up all of that water. That was about 100 ml. So we're just going to leave this for another little second. Remove the cat here. Definitely takes time the first time round. Most definitely. While that's soaking, I'll just put some more water on there and set it aside. One thing that I was made aware of is it's not a brilliant idea if you want to be able to quickly pop the lid on it, pop the band down and transport it, is that you've obviously got two of the foam sheets, so you can actually use the lid as a wet palette. There's absolutely nothing stopping you doing that if you're planning on just using them at home. You would then obviously just need to figure out a way of covering both ends. It's not something I would personally do, however I do know some people that are actually working that way with them. So that is one option. Okay, so we'll pull this back in. You can see I've got quite a bit of residue up there in the corner. I'm gonna end up with water all over my desk. So I'm just gonna pour some of this out. Because with this one, you don't really want excess. Whereas with all the home ones, I always leave excess. With this one, I'm not gonna though. So I was just off cam pouring water, nothing important. Okay, so no excess in there. It's definitely soaked into all of the padding, most definitely. So now for the fun bit, the fighty bit of every single wet palette ever made, is getting this parchment paper down before it starts curling and being a pain. So we're just going to set it down very quickly. What I've found with these to help get air bubbles out is if you actually leave some moisture on the top. But I'm going to try it without that just to see if this is any different from the homemade ones. So as usual, it's wrinkling. You just gotta kind of persevere at this stage and get the wrinkles out. It's up to you how picky you want to be with that. I find it pretty impossible to get every single air bubble out unless you spend quite a bit of time on it. I love the fact you can still see the logo. This is much easier than on the homemade ones, I will give them that. Everything's nicely cut to size for you, everything's cut to shape. Everything's just perfect for you. There we go. I think that is about as good as it's getting. It does feel a little dry for my liking, but that is purely personal preference. So I'm going to do what I always do and take a little bit of water and just go over the top, which helps keep the edges down, I have found. Sorry, that irritating noise is my bracelet. There we go, it's that easy. That is the wet palette setup. She says dropping it. As you can see, I've put quite a bit of water on the top. That is just personal preference. That is the way I set up my wet palettes. It's up to you whether you do that stage or not. It can help keep the curling down at the edges and make it much easier to get the air bubbles out. We then have the lid, as I said, that just pops on. That goes on very, very easy. There's no fighting with that or anything. We then have the band to go around the center. It just pops over. It's very strong. There's absolutely no way that is going to come apart in a bag. Absolutely no way. Not a chance. So yeah, that is actually surprisingly sturdy. We'll slip this off. Take the lid off and then we'll see what this little magnetic paint palette is like. Admittedly, one of my magnets is loose. That's not something I would personally complain about. Things like that happen. A little bit of glue is going to fix it. So you got the two magnets. You got your 5 little dimples here, and it can very easily just slot onto there once I've fixed the magnet. That's the only thing actually that I have to say is a flaw, is this magnet being kind of not the way it should be. But it came from the good old US of A to the UK, so I can't really complain. Or Royal Mail batters things about. So yeah, that little palette very nicely stays on no matter where you slide it around. You can also pop it on here. I need to fix that magnet before I can use it. I really can't blame Redgrass for that. And then onto the other side as well. So yeah, overall guys, until I actually start painting miniatures with it on stream, overall the design is fantastic. I have absolutely no fault with the design whatsoever. It seems secure enough. Time will tell how long the paint actually stays wet for. I think the band is actually really cool because it gives you the option of transporting without the concern of anything actually spilling out into your bag, which I've had happen many a time. That damn magnet, seriously guys. I'm just going to fix that right now. Yeah, so overall the design is fantastic. The only slight thing I would have to grumble about, she says throwing her super glue everywhere, is the magnet. But these things happen. Bob's your uncle, fixed. They're just held in with a little bit of glue anyway. The actual quality is fantastic. The design is fantastic. It looks nice and sleek. It's big enough to accommodate for medium to small projects. Personally, it's not something I would use for batch painting because I do take up quite a lot of space when I am batch painting and when I'm painting larger models. However, for my day-to-day painting, for going into my local hobby store, this is the kind of thing that I would most definitely pick up and just pop in my bag. With the fact that you have this handy little packet, or sorry, 2 handy packets of the wet palette papers is fantastic. The fact that they even give you a spare foam sheet, giving you the utility of using the lid as one as well if you're just strictly going to be using it at home and have something to cover it already. That is amazing. They're mold resistant. Again, time will tell. However, they wouldn't be putting that claim on there if it wasn't true. 100 sheets to get you started. That will last a very long time, even for us commission painters who are painting most days. The addition of this is something I've never seen on another wet palette, so that was something new and something that caught my eye. Again, some people will use it for paint. I will use it for washes, or maybe my metallics to keep them off the wet palette because I don't really like my metallics on there. The fact you can attach it to different sides as well is really good. The build quality itself, in terms of how sturdy it feels, is fantastic. There's no give in the plastic that would make you think that it's going to break. Nothing like that at all. It's got just the right amount of flexibility in it to be able to suffer a drop or something and not crack, because there is no flexibility there. Packaging's lovely. The price point is, I think, on point for this product. I would really like to get my hands on the larger version, because that would probably be the one that I would use most. Again, that's just personal preference. But I think this, everyone that I say you have to use a wet palette, as long as this tests out to be as good when I'm actually using it as what it's been so far in terms of opening it and what you get, price point and quality, then this is definitely going to be the one that I'll be recommending to everyone who asks me about wet palettes. Again, I will have all of the information for Redgrass down in the channel information below in the description. Please do go and check out their website if you've bought one of these, and if you are having any difficulty with it, please do check out their website. They do give you all of the info on how to set it up, troubleshooting, anything like that. Wet palettes are pretty simple once you're used to them, but they can be a bit tricky at the start off. So yeah, please do check the information in the description. You will also find my Twitch, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram links in the description below. I will give you guys an update on stream and port it over here on the YouTube when I actually use it on stream, and you'll be able to see some updates on Instagram as well. Overall, 10 out of 10, I can't complain. If you've not picked up one of these, I would say definitely get one. You cannot go wrong with it. So well done, Redgrass. This might be the best wet palette that I have used so far. So thanks guys for hanging out and checking out the review, and putting up with my semi-professionalism. And I will catch you guys later.